This is the beautiful dish that we're making. I'm sure you'll love it. You're gonna love this one. Oh man. Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. This is Texas Cooking Today. I'm Stuart, and today we're making a beef bourguignon. This is a time-tested recipe, a very old recipe, centuries old. It's from France, and folks, it's not a lot of work, it's not a lot of complication, but there are several steps that I'm going to show you, and a few neat tricks that'll help you on your way to making the very best beef bourguignon you'll ever have. Now, I'll tell you what, I got a whole lot of ingredients laid out here, and I'm just ready to show you this and get this thing started. But before I get into that, I do want to mention, please take a look in that comments box, in my description box. Boy, I'm losing it today. Look in the description box right under this video. You'll see links to my website where you can get this recipe, believe it or not. You can also find another link there for Wild Grains, and that is a company that provides a subscription service for breads, pastas, and pastries. And I'm not talking about cheap stuff. I'm talking about really top quality stuff. Take a look at their website also, and that link is right down there. Now, if you would, please subscribe, click the bell, and come this way to look at these ingredients. Come on over. So folks, all of the ingredients, and so you'll know, I'll give you the measurements on these ingredients towards the end of the video, but so you'll know what we're working with. We've got some, of course, beef over here, beef broth, a red wine. Now I'm using a Merlot, but you choose whatever red you like to use or drink. That's the best one to go with. Some pearl onions. They can be yellow, white, red ones, whichever you choose, go with it. We've got some tomato paste right here, carrots, garlic, fresh thyme, and a bit of olive oil, salt, and some patience. All right, now that's what it takes to get this meal made. First thing we need to do is get this thing cut up and start preheating our pot so we can sear this, because that creates a lot of flavor. All right. Now, chuck roasts will come as a grouping of muscles. This is part of the shoulder of the cow, all right? And so you see multiple muscles going on here. There's one here, there's one here, there is one here, a small muscle here, and here, a small one here, and another one here. All right, so this is a whole group of muscles. And a lot of times you can reach in and, quite frankly, pull some of them apart. Look at that. With one hand, I can pull some of that roast apart. Now, so as you can see, separating the muscles isn't really a difficult thing. We get a knife involved, it gets a little bit easier. Now, something I will mention, you do not have to remove all of the fat when you're doing this. Keeping some of that fat's a good thing to do. We'll keep those two muscles together. And sometimes if you got a little more than you want, you can trim a bit of it. But for the most part, go ahead and keep it in there. And you see, I'm making good sized pieces of meat that are about half the size of my fist. So both of those together, close to the size of my fist. All right, and that's what I'm looking for. Big chunks about half the size of my fist. And with a chuck, that's real easy because a lot of these muscles are already there. All right, like that guy. Simple enough, huh? Now, I like some of that beef fat in this dish because it's flavor, ladies and gentlemen. Some people would be upset that I've removed any of it. But you know what? Hey, it's my roast. They can leave it in theirs. All right, now I'm going to have a couple of bigger pieces here. These are beautifully marbled pieces of meat. I can't wait to get those cooked just the right way. All right, so it looks like my roast is cut up and ready to go. Now, one of the reasons I like wearing gloves, A, it's sanitary. It looks good. It's a good way to, be, especially in front of your guests. But at the same time, it's cleanup, folks. It's the speed of cleanup and getting right on to the next thing. Okay, got my oven started. Now, I'm going to take my pot, separate the pot and the lid, and put them both in the oven. As long as I'm preheating the oven, I might as well preheat the whole pot with it, bringing all of that iron up in temperature. That way when I'm doing my searing, the burner has to do less work and I don't wait as long. Okay, meat is cut, the oven is heating, and it's also heating that Dutch oven. That was the beeper that lets me know the oven has come up in temperature. Doesn't mean that iron is fully hot yet, so I'm going to give it a few extra minutes. I do want to mention a few things though. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of string, I'm going to tie it around these sprigs of thyme. And what this does is it just allows me to put the thyme down in the pot without having to process it, and then to pull out the excess at the midpoint of cooking. And it's easy to grab a hold of because I got a big old long string that facilitates that. Okay, thyme is delicious. It is a beautiful herb, but be careful. Too much of it will really overwhelm a dish. The same way rosemary can do. Different flavors, but they're both potent in their own way. This dish is about stacking flavors. It's about building flavors and doing it in a very unique way. So if you are a new cook or a new chef, this is the recipe and this is the video for you. What I'm going to be showing you today is, first of all, we're going to caramelize that meat. We're going to get it in the pan. We're going to get it searing. We're going to turn the meat a little brown on the outside, and I'm looking to get a little bit of caramelized buildup in the bottom of my pot. That is all concentrated flavor. It is caramelized meat juices, and it produces a certain very good flavor. And it is a part of the stacking or building of flavors that we're about to do. Another thing we're going to do later in the dish, we're going to do more searing. We're going to sear the carrots. We're going to sear the onions after I've processed those. I'm going to show you a trick about that. We're going to sear those items, and then that pan that we sear in, we're going to deglaze it and put that liquid down into the whole roast before we further roast the vegetables with the meat. So it starts with the meat. We get it seared, then we get liquid in it, and then we get it in the oven. Now we're going to use a technique called braising. Folks, if you're unfamiliar with that term, braising means cooking in liquid at low temperatures. Okay, so you're cooking between 250 and 300 most of the time. Today, I've got mine set at 275. That means I'm looking at about a 4-hour cook just for the initial part. And then I will be cooking the vegetables. Now, sometimes I get lucky and the roast is really tender, and this one looks like it might be, so I might get done in 3 hours. There's no way to know. The meat will tell you when it's ready, not the other way around. So, and it depends on your altitude, the roast itself, how much meat you're cooking, how crowded that pot is. There's a lot of different factors that go into cooking this dish, into considering how it's going to come out and how long it takes. That's why I wanted to cover a lot of things. Now, if you don't know how to remove the skin from the outside of little onions, well, we're going to be going over that in just a little bit, and it'll be a trick that'll help speed you up. The carrots don't need a lot of processing. I'm just going to cut the ends off, and then we're going to leave some pretty substantial sized pieces when I cut them up. So nothing special there. I already have everything measured out and ready to go. So the garlic's measured and ready to go. I can crush it and put it in the dish from the early onset. Okay, so the garlic goes in there along with the meat. But the vegetables like the carrots and the onions, those go in later on. Now there is another ingredient that you haven't seen out here that's commonly put in beef bourguignon, and that's mushrooms, like little cremini mushrooms. Okay, you'll need about 10 or 15 of those. Split them in half, and they will be part of searing the vegetables at the end and going in the end cook. So we cook the meat up first. Once it gets mostly fork tender, we then do the vegetables, add those to it, put it back in there and cook it a little longer. And then once we're finished with that, we make gravy, and we have delicious going on. So it's not a quick cook, but it is certainly very, very special. So sorry if it seems like I chatter too much, but there's a lot of information on this one. So I'm just going to leave that lid in the oven. I just need this part right here. Now this pan is not hot enough at this point to give me a really, really good quality sear. And so what I'm going to do is hit it with a high flame. I'm going to get the temperature up on it as quick as I can. And as soon as it is good and hot, then we're going to go in with those chunks of meat. All right, let's look at that. Okay, so I've got sizzling going on, and it sizzled off pretty quick. That means I'm getting there, but it ain't there yet. So what we're looking for is, when I throw water in there, for that water to just bead up and kind of roll around in there. And what happens is you get a vapor barrier in between the hot surface and the bead of water, and it doesn't allow it to sizzle off. It just kind of skates around in there on that vapor barrier. And this is, if you can look up the term Leidenfrost, he was the scientist that first discovered this and showed the world what this phenomenon is. So we named it after him, the Leidenfrost effect. Okay, I just tested my pot, and it is hot, trust me. And so what I'm going to do, get a little oil in here. I'm going to swish my oil around a little bit, just like so, and get the meat right in there. Time for some searing. Okay, we're going to let that do its thing. Now something I'll mention, if you'll notice, I did not overcrowd this pan. I still have 4 pieces of meat left to cook. And I do that on purpose. I do not want a bunch of juice building up in the bottom of the pan and it start braising early. I'm looking to sear right now, not to braise. Now, looky there. Whoop, there we go. There we are. That is beautiful. That's what I'm looking for. All right. I'm getting some brown on the bottom of the pan, which I want. All right. It is time I get on with this cook. Yeah, look at that. We got a beautiful sear. That's what I'm looking for. These other pieces are great looking, and I'm ready to move on with what I need to do here. Turn that fan off. And go ahead and get my beef broth in there. And I'm going to put this tomato paste right down here. Okay, so what I need to do is to get that tomato paste worked into that broth. Just employ a whisk to give me a good head start with that. And if it isn't perfect, that's okay. This is going to be cooking long enough to resolve any problems that might come up, like things that aren't fully mixed. All right. The next thing I want in here is my thyme and my garlic, and then we're going to be adding in some wine. Now my garlic cloves, I'm going to do nothing more than just crush them. Oops, get that over there. That last one tried to get away. All right. My wine bottle. Now, I do have a trick for these. First, I get rid of that cover. It makes it a lot easier. All right. Yeah. I'll cool it down just a little. Now, if you notice right now, this is the advantage of using iron. You see how quickly it recovers in its heat. All right, now get that meat down in here. So I want to cook this with the meat covered, all right? And at this point, we can add as much of the wine as we want, all right? I'll generally add anywhere from a half to 3/4 of a bottle to begin with, and that right there was about 3/4 of a bottle. All right, this is going to be cooking for a long time, so it's going to cook out a lot of the liquid there, and it's going to concentrate that and turn it into a absolutely delicious gravy. Now this should be easy to find, but I want to show you a quick trick that makes your thyme easy to get to every time. Just have the string hanging out a little bit, folks. Now the lid to this is still sitting in the oven, so as I put it in there, I'll lid it up, and we just give it plenty of time. I do need to bring it back to a boil right where it is, so I'm not rushing the situation, but that's where we're at. Now when it comes to some of the other ingredients, like the onions and the carrots, well, those items, those are going to be taken care of towards the end of the cooking. We're going to do something in between though. I have a bay leaf here. All right, look at that. It's coming up to a boil. It's looking absolutely beautiful. So let's cover it, get it in the oven. All righty. Turn my burner off. Get my lid and into the oven. Now, the next ingredient is patience. Plenty of. I have just checked this. It has been right now about 2 hours of cooking. I did the fork test on the meat and it did not slide out on its own, so it's nowhere near fork tender. But it's cooking up really nice. I did notice my bay leaf right here on top. And if I want, I can go ahead and remove it now. I can leave it in, but it has done its job to this point. And also right here, that is my thyme. So I'm going to take the thyme out. I have a plate to set that on. That was the fork I used to test the meat with. All right, this needs to go back in the oven and just keep cooking. It is looking really good. It's rich. It's got that deep burgundy color to it, just what we're really wanting in a dish like this. And from here, it'll do nothing but get better. So, more cooking. Okay, so the roast back in the oven. I have my onions here and I'm getting ready to process these. What I need to do is to get the paper off of the outside of these onions, get them cleaned up basically, and ready to cook. Now what I need to do is remove the outer layers of paper and that root, and it's going to start with the root. So I cut that off first, and then I'm going to blanch them. So what I need to do is prepare a pot of hot water and a bowl full of ice water. And what I do is I blanch them in the hot water first, throw them then in the ice water, and then after that, they will slip out of their skins. So that's how you do your pearl onions. It's not a lot of work, but this is the quickest, easiest way to do it. So prepping the onion is as simple as we cut the root off, okay? Right down here. I'm just going to do a rootectomy on each one of these here little onions. And after I blanch these and put them into ice water, as a general rule, most of the time, most of this time this works, most of the time the outer layer will simply slip right off of the onion. All right, now I've got a bunch of onions here. These are all actually from my garden. So we're doing this as, in part, a ground to table kind of dish. All right, there we have it. That was not something that took a whole lot of time. And the next part, the same way. It's not just real time consuming. It's just a simple process. All right, I've got water boiling here. I've got ice ready to go in there. Isn't that beautiful? All I need to do is take these, put them in this, after a minute in this, right into the ice bath. Now it has been in there for about a minute. So I'll just pull them out, right in the ice water. So the quantity of everything that is used to make beef bourguignon starts with the meat, and I'm using a chuck roast here. This is beef chuck. It is about 2 1/3 pounds. Now I'm going to say you need 2 to 3 pounds of beef chuck, big pieces as you've seen. 2 cups of beef broth, up to a full bottle of red wine, 20 to 30 pearl onions of your choice. You're going to need 1 to 2 bay leaves, 6 to 8 ounces of tomato paste. I'm using 6 ounces here. You're going to need about 3 to 4 medium carrots. I didn't have medium, so I used a few extra small carrots. 4 to 6 cloves of garlic and a teaspoon of thyme. And if you don't have a teaspoon, as you've seen here, I just grabbed a small grouping, some sprigs there, cook them for a short while, then pull them out of the pot. You've got your flavor all in there. Now folks, that's all there was to it, but we need to show off what's going on with all of these ingredients. So let's take a look at that. All right, now we have blanched these in theory. All I have to do is pull on the back of this, just kind of pinch it a little bit, and that onion just pops right out. Now looky there, isn't that just sweet as all get out? There's our pearl onions, okay? Now, sometimes you get one that's a little stubborn. Don't let it discourage you, okay? Just kind of keep on moving on down the road, grab the next one and go at it. There we have it. So isn't that pretty easy there? Let me squeeze there. Whoop. Off in the bowl. All right. That right there is the end of that job. All right. That pan is hot, hot. When you can get water to just skate around like that, your pan is very hot. Make sure you dry it before putting oil in it. Now here we need to actually saute our vegetables before putting them in with the roast, okay? So you'll know I have just tested the roast and it has become the beginning of fork tender, and so it's just at the right stage. Now we need to get these cooked up, and as soon as I have caramelization on my carrots, I'm going to do the onions, and then we are going to get this stuff into the oven. Oh, delicious. So the point of this isn't so much getting the vegetable cooked. It's getting some sear on the outside of it. So I'm looking for brown, plain and simple. I'm not interested in cook. Cook will happen in the oven after it is put in with the roast. It's going to add a wonderful dimension in flavor. This changes the flavor of the carrot, it changes the flavor of the dish. And earlier I mentioned stacking flavors. This is part of it. It's not just the flavor of the carrot going in the dish, now we have the flavor of the carrot going in the dish, plus the flavor of the caramelization that we brought out before putting the carrot in that dish. So it's all's well. But this is really how we just stack and build flavors in a tremendous dish like this. Now look at that. This is what I'm talking about when I say color. We got beautiful color going on these, and a little bit happening on the bottom of the pan. Now, these I need to get out of here, get back in their bowl. Now, till this point, I have been pretty much cooking on a fairly high temperature. I'm going to back it down to a medium. It's just about patience. Give it time to caramelize, roll it a little bit, do that a couple of times, and then we're all ready to move to the next step. Look at that. That's just absolutely heavenly looking. And that's really what I'm hoping for, getting this beautiful brown coating going on these. Okay, we got beautiful going on here. So once you're finished doing this, just hit it with a little wine. All I'm looking to do is deglaze that pan, anything that might be on there. Now back here, here it is. This is what we've been waiting for. A beautiful, wonderful, exciting, robust flavor. Oh, let me taste this. That's fantastic. Now, let's make it a little better. There we go, right in there. I'm gonna hit this with a little bit of salt, about a teaspoon. Okay. Give it a gentle stir. Now, it goes back in the oven for about another hour, but this time it's going to be in there open. It will not have a lid. So we're going to be steaming off all that excess moisture. Okay, now, my timer just now went off, so it's been 3 hours in the total cook. This, we will add to it another hour, right there. All right, that is bubbly goodness right there. That's exactly what I was hoping on, and just got my wishes. Now, I need to thicken this up, and the traditional way would be doing a flour with water thing. But these days I'm trying to use alternative methods, and so I decided this time I'm going to do the cornstarch thing. Now normally if I'm doing flour, I remove all of the meat and vegetables so I can put a flame under it and cook off that flour. With the cornstarch, I don't have to worry about that so much. Now my pan has got a lot of residual heat in it, which is really going to work with me while I'm doing this. And I'm just using a couple of tablespoons, 2 to 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and a little bit of cold water. If I wanted, I could have used some of the leftover wine and put the cornstarch right into that wine. However, wasn't looking for that. It does make the gravy a little more fruity, I'll say that. But this time I was looking for a little more of that deep, rich, brown gravy flavor, even though there's a lot of wine in there now. So I'm just going to take this and put a little bit of it in there. And that's my timer telling me it's time to take this out of the oven and thicken up the gravy. I like that for some timing. Okay. Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. What we have going on is truly magnificent. Take a close-up look right here in this pot. This right here is what I'm talking about, folks. Look at those beautiful pearl onions and the meat that's quite literally falling apart. This is true quality beef bourguignon right here. And if you want, you can use the gravy to wash down the sides to get that extra flavor off of there, that built-up fond. But I'm here to tell you, what's right here in this pot, I don't think you're going to complain about at all. So as I was waiting for this to do its thing in the oven on the last portion, I went ahead and fixed a batch of my extra fluffy, buttery mashed potatoes. These are just the bomb, let me tell you. Now if you want, I have this recipe on Texas Cooking Today, so check that out on my channel. Honestly, some of the best mash I've ever made was with this method. There we are. Get some of my vegetables here. As I get a little bit messy with it. All right. Just need to clean that up a little bit, and that is all ready to go. Well, there it is. Absolutely beautiful, majestic, and totally delicious. You're gonna love it. All right, so when my timer went off as I was making gravy, that was exactly 4 hours right there. Yeah, it's a long cook, but it is well rewarding. And I guarantee you, once you've had this recipe, you'll probably be making it again and again and again. I have been. So anyway, give it a try. This is something that should be in everyone's recipe collection. Please do me a favor, take a look right underneath this in the description box. Look for links to my website where you get this recipe, also to Wild Grains where you get the best tasting sourdough breads, pastries, and pastas that you'll ever put in your mouth. So please enjoy that. It's a wonderful subscription model that I'm sure you'll love. Try it out. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. Drop me a comment down below, click like, and enjoy your recipe, folks. Oh my gosh. The meat is just so supple and tender. And that gravy, that rich, deep red gravy. Folks, it's just so good. Thank you for watching. Please have a good day.